Good
Hey,
evening, sir.
Mustafa. Yeah, good evening. How are you?
Fine, sir. So sorry for joining late because my WhatsApp wasn't opening.
Okay, okay. All right. So we were doing the chapter Age of Adolescence. In the chapter so far, we had learned about the different changes that occurs in the adolescence at puberty, right? Then in the last class, we were learning about the sexual characteristics, particularly where I mentioned about the secondary and the primary and the secondary sexual characteristics, right? But now the question is like, what is this? What do you mean by the sexual characteristics? What does it basically mean? Hmm? Like, there are some characteristics of the body now, of the body of the humans that helps us to distinguish the male from the female. Is my voice sufficient? Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there are some characteristics that helps us to distinguish the male from the female. So they are called as the sexual characteristics. Sexual characteristics, we can define them as the characteristics that helps us to distinguish between males and females. Males and females. Now further, these characteristics can be further categorized into two types. One is the primary sexual characteristics right now, which are present in them by birth. And that is how we are able to distinguish them. Like they are basically the different reproductive organs of the males and females, right? Where are others? Like neither Pavan is here, Fatima has been absent for last two class. Okay, do one thing now. We will do some questions for the next 2 3 minutes. I'll be waiting for some other students also to join. Okay. So tell me, sebum is secreted by which gland?
Sebum. Sorry,
Hmm.
semen or sebum.
No, semen is different thing. It's sebum.
So, I don't know.
Sebum, not getting it. Isn't it the oil gland or the sebaceous gland?
Oh yeah, sir, I forgot about that.
Okay, no worries. What is the reason behind the increase in the sweat and the oil gland production? At puberty, there's increase in the production of sweat and the oil. Mention some of the reasons behind it. Why do they sweat more?
Sir, because like like people would be growing up, mostly they'll be participating in like sports and everything. They'll be playing a lot. They'll be more active,
Hmm.
and to like remove the excess waste from the body and also to moisturize the skin.
Hmm.
Oil glands become more oil and sweat glands become more active
Good,
during
good.
adolescence.
Hmm. Also, what about the hormones? Testosterone and estrogen. Testosterone in the male and estrogen in the female, their production increases now. As their production increases, so thereby they trigger them. They stimulate the apocrine glands. Basically, they trigger the sweat and the oil gland, and in turn, they will produce more sweat and oil. Okay, we learned about their advantages and their disadvantages also. If they are secreted in excess quantity, then what will happen?
Sir,
Hey,
sir,
Fatima.
sir, sir, can you repeat the question again?
If there is increase in excessive amount of sweat and oil is being produced, then what happens?
Sir, you
Obviously, like this, it's
we
visible in
start
the
sweat.
face.
It's
Mhm.
visible. It's visible on the body. We sweat a lot, and when we sweat a lot because we do a lot of strenuous activities, it like cools off the skin as well.
Okay, that is correct. That is correct. I'm saying like, what is the disadvantage of increased production of the sweat and the oil? It leads to pimples, no? Right? Pimples,
Yes.
acne, and the pimples, right?
Yes.
Hey, Fatima, how are you? Hey, Hanvi, welcome back.
I'm fine.
Yeah, Fatima, like, try to join the class on time. Hmm?
Okay, sir.
Okay, Hanvi, as for you, let me tell you like what are the topics for which you'll be provided an extra class, or like in the next class I'll be calling you a little bit early. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, we're doing the same chapter. Basically, in the chapter, these topics like increase in the height. Okay, then the formula to calculate the full height, getting a formula to calculate the full height, and why is it that every
Okay.
member in the family are generally of the same height, and then also the mental, emotional, and intellectual maturity. There's change. There are some psychological changes also in the adolescence now. So these topics have been discussed in the batch. Okay, also development of the sex organs. These 4 to 5 topics have been discussed. Right now, we are discussing about the sexual characteristics that also develops in the adolescence at this time period. Okay, Hanvi.
Okay,
All of you
sir.
turn your cameras on. Okay. Fatima, you were absent in the last class.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Please watch the recording. Okay, now.
Okay, sir.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe if I call Hanvi earlier, like I will be calling Hanvi earlier, so I will be calling you also. Okay. Hmm. So I was saying that the sexual characteristics. Okay, now. So the sexual characteristics are basically those characteristics that help us distinguish between the male and the female. That they help us differentiate between the males and the females. Okay. Further, these characteristics are categorized into primary sexual characteristics, primary sexual characteristics. Second is the secondary sexual characteristics. Secondary sexual characteristics. Now, now the primary sexual characteristics are those characteristics that are present since birth, that are present at the time period of birth. Getting it now? So they are basically the male and the female reproductive organs. They're what? They are the male and female reproductive organs. That's the thing. Okay. But as for the secondary sexual characteristics, they are not present at birth but develop later at time of puberty. The secondary sexual characteristics, they develop later at time of puberty. And those features distinguishes the male from the female. Getting it now? They would be distinguishing the male from the female. Like in the males, there is growth of facial hair, mustaches and beard. Have you ever seen a girl with a beard or mustache? Yeah. Unless like they are suffering from some genetic problem. There happens to be a girl from the area of Punjab. She has a full grown beard. So there's a genetic reason behind that. That's a genetic disorder. But generally, no. Getting it? Okay. All right. So apart from that, there are some other physical changes in the boys and the girls, right? The boys have broader shoulders and chest becomes broad. Adam's apples develops in front of the throat. They develop a deep voice. Sometimes their voice can crack up also. In the females, the mammary gland develops because of which there is development of the breast. Hips broaden up and becomes curved, right? Particularly the hip bones are wider in the girls. Getting it now? In the female, the hip bones are larger. There's a biological reason behind that. Getting it now? Because the women, as they have to bear the baby in the womb. So that's why, in order to accommodate them, the hip joint is wider in them, so that the womb would be able to accommodate the growing baby, right? Plus, they have a high pitched voice also. So these are the changes. These are the secondary sexual characteristics that develops in the males and the females. That also helps us distinguish between them. Getting it now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So that is about the secondary sexual characteristics. Those features helps us uh, in distinguishing male and the female, right? And these are not present since birth. Okay, now not present at time of birth. It develops as they grow older. And here they are. This is basically the reproductive organs. Reproductive organs which are present since birth. Since birth, these are present in them. right? Now they would be including the internal and the external organs which are present in the babies at the time of the birth, right? Like as for this, I have already told, like for example, in the males, the internal and the external reproductive organs that are present in them, like that would be testis, penis, uh, vast difference, seminal vesicles. If you're wondering like what are these, later on we'll be learning about that in detail in the male reproductive organs. Particularly, we have the chapter reproduction in animals. We'll be learning about this in detail in that chapter. Okay. Then second, as for the females, so in the female child, the reproductive organs like we see ovaries, fallopian tube, uterus. These are present since birth, right now. That's the thing. Also in the exams, now guys, this question is usually asked, like you will be asked to write down the main, secondary. You will be asked to write down the secondary sexual characteristics in the males and in the females. So you must memorize these. Okay, now. As for the boys, facial hair growth, growth of hair on the chest, under the armpits and pubic regions. Other than that, let me write down few more. Like shoulders broaden. Shoulders broaden in them. Okay. Or rather, I should write both of them, like shoulder and chest broadens. So chest and shoulder broadens. Facial hair, okay, it's mentioned growth of hair on the chest, under the arms, and in the pubic area. Pubic area, that basically refers to the genital area. Okay, no, genital area near the reproductive organs. Then they have a deeper voice as well. Deeper voice generally. And as for the girls, development of the breast, right? The growth of hair under the arms, under the armpit, and in the pubic region. Other than that, we can also include widening of hips also. Why so? Because the hip joint is wider. Okay. Also, you guys tell me, like suppose in an autopsy report, how do they distinguish between males and females? Like if only a skeleton is given, let us suppose that if a forensic autopsy report has been done, and there we have to distinguish between the male and the female skeletons, right? So how do they distinguish between them? Getting Hanvi, Fatima, and was what I'm trying to ask.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So basically, they will be studying about the skull and their pelvic area, right now, because in the females, the pelvic area is more rounded and it is wider, right now. But in the males, the pelvic region, particularly the hip bone, they are narrower in comparison to the females. Okay, now. Also, you know that the whose skull is more who more delicate and gracile, male or the female? What do you guys think? I'm saying that whose skulls are more delicate and gracile. Delicate, basically, understand this. It's the females, right? Getting it now? So by learning about that also, like the male skills also, they're generally larger and more robust. Like they can take the bump. Getting it? They're quite strong. That's the thing. But in the females, the skull is quite, in comparison to the male, it's quite weaker. So by studying that also, they're able to distinguish. So that's why like widening of hip particularly is observed in the females. And the reasoning behind this is that during the time of in the chapter reproduction in animals, there I will teach you all that in detail. So thereby, in order to accommodate the growing baby in the uterus, like a good amount of space is required for the growth of the baby. So the hip bones have to be wider. The pelvic area has to be wider in order to accommodate the growing baby. That's why the hips are wider in them. So that was about the primary and the secondary sexual characteristics. You should memorize all these secondary sexual characteristics that develops in the boys and the girls. Okay, that's the thing. Now, the question is like how the changes in the human body occurs at the time of puberty. Like all these changes that you have learned in this chapter, change in voice, change in the height, increase in the muscle mass, growth of the facial hairs, development of the sexual organs, all of these are actually related to some substances called as hormones. Getting it now? Hanvi, read the paragraph from here till here. Read the one in the black.
For me?
Yeah, Hanvi.
Yes, sir.
You read the paragraph. Read the paragraph from here.
Sir, I can't see your screen properly.
Okay, Fatima, you read this.
Hormones are chemicals that coordinate different functions in your body by carrying messages through your blood to your organs, skin, muscles, and other tissues. These signals tell your body what to do and what to do
When to do.
and when to do. Hormones are essential for life and your health.
Okay. Hanvi, are you having some network issue?
No.
Okay. See.
No, sir.
Okay, look here. Now what happens? There are some chemical substances that are released inside our body. That would be basically carrying message from one part of the body to another part. Like suppose what happens when we are in some situation of emergency, right? Let us suppose if there's a child who is being chased by wild dogs. A very scary situation, right? A child being chased by the dogs. So that child is in a situation of emergency, right? And at that time, there will be flow of energy in his body. There will be a rush of energy in his body. Where does he get that energy from? Like usually, if someone is being chased by an animal, right, or chased by someone, so they would be running faster, right? Suppose if you have
Adrenaline.
adrenaline rush, exactly. There's an adrenaline rush in the body at that time. So adrenaline, which you have mentioned here, it's a hormone. We mentioned here an example of a hormone that is adrenaline. Now this adrenaline hormone, it is secreted by a gland which is present over our kidneys. How many kidneys do we have?
Two.
Two. Okay. So there is a gland present over the kidney, okay, like this, and that we call as adrenal gland. What do we call them? Adrenal gland. Now the adrenal gland secretes a hormone called as adrenaline hormone. Okay. But now the question is like who gave the message to the adrenal gland to secrete adrenaline? What basically adrenaline does, no, it basically gives you a rush of energy, increases your heartbeat, it increases the flow of the blood in your body, and you get more energy. That's how you'll be able to run faster in that situation. The child would be able to run faster. But now the question is, where did the adrenal gland got the message from? So it got the message from another gland, from the brain particularly, but in the brain there's a master gland. So there's a master gland in our brain that we call as pituitary gland. Okay, like it's the head of all gland, you can say master of all the glands. So pituitary glands would actually send hormones. Sorry. Pituitary glands would actually be triggering the adrenal glands to secrete adrenaline hormone. Getting it? So basically what is happening here? The hormones are actually the chemical substances that coordinates different functions in the body by carrying masses throughout your blood to your organs, right? Now what the adrenaline will do? Now the adrenaline hormone, which is secreted by the adrenal gland, it goes into your blood, and the blood will further carry it to your heart. Getting it? Let me repeat once again. Your brain is controlling the secretion of the adrenaline, like when it has to be secreted, how much has to be secreted. As you are in a situation of emergency, so your brain would be particularly sending the message to the pituitary gland to trigger this adrenal gland Getting it what I'm trying to say? Listen again. The pituitary gland will basically it will kind of influence the release of adrenaline from adrenal gland. It's the master of all glands. There are so many glands in the body, and the master of all of them is adrenal gland. Which, sorry, pituitary gland, I mean to say. The one that we see over here. It is present inside our brain. And it is quite very small in size, as small as the size of a pea. Getting it? So it will basically regulate the function of different glands in your body. So it regulates the function of adrenal gland also. Okay. Now the adrenal gland, which is situated over your kidneys, are going to release adrenaline. Then I later said that adrenaline is secreted into your blood, and the blood will carry it to the heart, and then your heart is going to react. Heart, what it will do? It increases the flow of blood to your cells. So as there is increase in the flow of blood to your cells are getting more amount of oxygen, more amount of all the things that it needs to carry its work. It gets more amount of blood, more amount of oxygen particularly, and hence you get more amount of energy at that time. Getting how all of this is connected, how the hormones, as they go into the blood, then they will go, particularly in this case, adrenaline goes to your heart, and the heart would be further increasing the flow of blood to your cells. So this will be actually helping to carry different functions in your body, like it will be carrying message from one part of the body to another part of the body. Getting what I'm trying to say?
Yes,
Further, we will have many more examples to understand this in detail. Okay, any questions, any doubts? Should we move ahead or not?
No, sir.
Okay. So that's the thing. So hormones, which we have just learned, that they are the chemical substances which coordinates the activities of living organisms, right? And also coordinates their growth. Now, hormones are made by special tissues in the body called as endocrine glands. Called as endocrine glands. So endocrine glands produces hormones. Although there are two types of glands in our body. If you were to look at this image here, see there are two types of glands in our body. One is called as the exocrine gland, another is the endocrine gland. Let me give you a little difference between the two. See, you might also be able to guess it. See, the basic thing is now, the different hormones that are secreted by the endocrine gland, they would be directly going into the blood. Okay, where do they go? They go into the blood. Like adrenal gland, it secretes adrenaline, and adrenaline first goes into your blood. Okay, Fatima, Hanvi, and Mustafa. Pawan is absent today, no? Okay, so is Sana. Now, but for the exocrine gland, you guys tell me. Our eyes have tear glands, they secrete tear. In the mouth, we have salivary gland that secretes saliva. Sweat gland secretes sweat, and the oil gland secretes sebum, right now. Then the mammary gland
Yes,
secretes
sir.
milk, right? So where is all these secretions going to? Are they going into blood, or are they coming onto the surface of the skin or surface of organ?
The surface of the skin or organ.
Right now, Fatima, you getting it? And Hanvi, turn your camera on. Huh?
Sir, it's on.
It's on.
Yes, sir, it's on.
No, actually it's off, Hanvi, as I can see here. See, so the thing is between the difference between the exocrine and the endocrine gland. Can you guys now conclude it? Like the secretions of the exocrine glands are not going into the blood, but are being released onto the surface of the skin or onto the surface of organ. But endocrine glands, their secretions goes directly into the blood. I suppose that should be clear. Okay.
Yes, sir.
before we understand a little bit more about them, let me tell you the meaning of the word duct. D-U-C-T. Duct, basically, you can understand this as tube or pipe-like structures. Tube or pipe-like structures, okay? Talking about the exocrine glands, they pass through a duct system to a body surface. Duct, as I told you, tube or pipe-like structure. Now, if you remember, earlier in the class, when we looked at the surface of the skin, under the skin, we have the glands like, we have sweat gland right now. And if you remember, the sweat gland kind of looks like this. It has a coiled form of a structure like this. And here is the duct. And onto the surface of the skin, you have a tiny pore by which sweat comes. So that right here is the sweat gland. Getting it, Mustafa?
Yes, sir.
Sweat gland. And the sweat is being released by the sweat gland via a tube-like structure onto the surface of the skin. Is that much clear to everyone about the exocrine gland?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they come to the surface of the body. Okay, Nahanvi and Fatima. But as for the endocrine glands, their secretion passes directly into blood. You just have to memorize that much. Okay, it's not complicated, otherwise we'll find it difficult to memorize. Okay, no? So their secretion passes directly into the blood. And what do they normally secrete? They secrete hormones. All right. Let me revise this thing once again. I say that exocrine gland secretions passes via a tube-like structure, via duct, that is a tube-like structure to the surface of the skin. Okay, but as for the endocrine glands, their secretions goes directly into the blood. There isn't any duct system. There isn't any pipe-like system carrying their secretions. If anyone has even a little bit of doubt, please raise your hand.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if no, we'll be continuing from here. All right, also this definition you must memorize, that hormones or chemicals that coordinate different functions in your body by carrying masses through your blood to your organs, the skins, muscles, and other tissues. Okay, one more important thing, let me tell you that hormones, they are also called as chemical messengers. What do we call them? They are chemical messengers. Good. So hormones are also called as chemical messengers. So what do messengers do? Messengers should be carrying the message from one part of the body to another, no? Right?
Yes.
Okay. Also, like the hormones, they are being directly poured into the blood, no? And the blood will now be carrying it throughout the body via the circulatory system. It gets carried throughout the body, right? Now, hormones are secreted, like a particular type of hormone is being secreted by a particular type of gland, and a particular hormone must have a specific target site on which it is going to act upon. Let me tell you what I actually mean to say. suppose suppose some hormone has been secreted. All right, now let's just take a simple example. We will take this one later on. Suppose we have a gland. Name any of the gland, pick any of the gland from this one. Either from the pituitary gland, thyroid gland, and adrenal gland, and pancreas, and ovary, and testes. Pineal gland we don't have to study, and neither we have to study about thymus. Pick any one of these.
Adrenal gland.
Which one?
Adrenal gland.
Adrenal gland. Oh, we have already discussed. Pick another one.
Thyroid.
Thyroid gland. Okay, let us discuss this. So the gland here we have chosen is thyroid gland, and thyroid gland is present in our throat, by the way. Okay, now see, moments ago I said a very important line where I say that the hormones are released by a particular gland, and that hormone has a particular target site. Like it has a specific organ in the body where it is going to act upon. Okay, na? So a hormone is produced by any endocrine gland in part of the human body, and it will cause a effect in another part of the body. Let us say that we have the thyroid gland. Now thyroid gland is going to produce a hormone that we call as thyroxine hormone. What does it secrete? Thyroxine. Thyroxine. Thyroxine hormone is secreted by the thyroid gland. All right. Now it is going to have a target site. It is going to have a target site. So basically the target site here refers to the particular place in our body where there will be effect of this hormone. So thyroxine hormone has a particular has a target site. As a target site. So it means that like throughout our body, it will have the target sites where it is going to do some work, where it is going to do some work. Got this what I'm trying to say? Okay, let me explain this further. Also, this thyroxine hormone, it will be carried by the blood to different parts of the body. Why the blood? It gets carried to different parts of the body. Because we know that hormones basically is carried by the blood as they are poured into the blood, right? So thereby they are they will be what do I say? Like they will be carried to different target sites of our body by the blood circulatory system only, right? So it has different functions. Like for example, it will go to it will particularly go to different cells of the body, right? It will help it will basically regulate the energy production of the body. Thyroxine hormone also will affect the heart rate, blood pressure, right? So one of the target site of the thyroxine hormone is the heart. What it does, as it goes to the heart, so thereby it increases the heart rate. Okay, na? Like it will affect the heart rate, it will also affect the blood pressure, and overall the functioning of the heart is influenced by this. That is one thing. Second, thyroxine hormone by the blood is carried to the brain also, right? So it influences the development of the brain. Influences the nervous system also. Getting it done. Then thyroxine hormone, in a way, later on, like if you study a little bit deeper about it, so you will see that it also influences reproductive health also. Like particularly, it impacts menstruation as well. Getting it? Menstruation as well. So what you should understand from this discussion is that when a hormone is secreted by a gland, it is carried by the blood to different target sites of the body. Target sites are those specific areas of the body where we are going to feel the effect of that hormone. Like as the thyroxine hormone by the blood is carried to the heart, so the heart rate will be affected. The blood pressure will be affected. Then as it is carried to the brain, so the brain development is affected. The nervous system's function is affected. As it goes to the female reproductive organ, so the menstruation cycle is affected, ovulation is affected, fertility is affected. Getting all of this or finding it confusing? Be honest and tell me.
Yes, sir.
I can read the confusion on your face. Fatima, looks like you're finding it a bit confusing. Uh-huh. No? Okay, if no, that's good. Hanvi, where are you? Like, are you there in the class? Uh-huh.
Yes, sir, I'm here only.
Okay, okay. So let me write a very important line about the hormones. So hormones, they are secreted by the endocrine gland or exocrine gland. Tell me.
Sir, endocrine.
Exactly. So hormones are secreted by endocrine glands. They are poured directly into the blood. Okay, now they are poured directly into the blood and carried throughout the body via blood circulatory system. Okay, so they will be carried to a particular site. Right now the hormones acts upon specific tissues or human body and will and they are called as target sites. Right now the hormones act on specific areas of the body called as target sites. Okay, sometimes the question might be asked like, what do you mean by the target sites? The target sites are the specific areas of our body upon which hormone acts. Okay, also you are seeing that the thyroid gland is present in one part of the body right now, like it is present in our throat, in our neck, but its effect is observed on the another part of the body, like on the heart, on the brain, right? Getting it now? That is also an important thing here. Let us now learn about the different endocrine glands. So first we have the pituitary gland, master of all glands. Right now it's called as the master of all glands. All of you turn your cameras on. Hanvi and Fatima, keep your cameras off. On, I mean to say. Okay, so talking about the pituitary gland here, it's called as the master gland. So the reason behind this being called as a master gland is because it controls and regulates the function of all other glands. Okay, now it controls and regulates the function of all other glands. So it is located in our brain. The position is in the brain. It is particularly secretes a hormone called as growth hormone. Okay, now, and is responsible for the growth of the body. Right. So they are present in the body switch control. These are pituitary glands present in the body switch control. Hold on, there seems to be some issue in this. See. So they are pituitary glands present in the body. Then they control the production of hormones by endocrine glands in both males as well as females. Okay, now pituitary gland itself is an endocrine gland. Okay, Hanvi, Fatima, and Mustafa. Then they control the production of hormones by endocrine glands in both males and as well as females. Like basically, how much of thyroxine hormone has to be secreted, when it has to be secreted, how much of adrenaline hormone, how much of testosterone, estrogen has to be secreted, in what amount, and when it is being controlled by the pituitary gland. Try to understand it again here. What happens? Look, the pituitary gland situated in our brain, it will be controlling the secretion of hormones of all other glands. Like it's the master gland. Okay, just like your brain controls the function of all your body, right? Your thought and your actions are controlled by the brain. Similarly, the pituitary gland would be controlling the secretion of hormones of thyroid gland, thymus, pineal, adrenal, pancreas, ovary, and testis. Getting this point? That is the reason why it is being called as the master gland. Okay. Yes or no?
Yes.
So,
Now the pituitary gland, it also secretes hormones of its own. So it will be secreting a hormone called as growth hormone, right? Growth hormone. Okay. Now growth hormone is basically responsible for the growth of the body, right? Now for the growth of the body, this is responsible. Whether it be growth in terms of the length, like height, or whether it be growth in terms of the muscle mass or other things. So that is responsible for this. Now, suppose if excessive amount of the growth hormone is secreted, huh? So if excessive amount of growth hormone is secreted by the pituitary gland, so thereby it leads to a condition called as gigantism, right? You might have seen such people that are very giant, right? They're giant peoples. Getting it? Some of them, like you might be aware of. Also, you might have seen giants in circuses earlier. Like circuses very very common. Nowadays, it's not that common, but giants and dwarfs were basically displayed in the circuses. Getting it? So if excessive amount of growth hormone will be secreted, so person would be yeah.
Nothing, sir.
So if excessive amount of growth hormone is secreted, so person can suffer from a condition called as gigantism, right? Where they would be abnormally very tall. Okay, Fatima. But if very less amount of growth hormone is secreted, so thereby they suffer from a condition called as dwarfism, right? Dwarfism. So that's the thing. So excessive secretion of growth hormone leads to gigantism, okay, and less secretion leads to conditions called as dwarfism. Okay, no, dwarfism. Okay, let me give some example of the people from which you can relate. Okay, okay, Fatima, when did you message it? Oh, yeah, be back quickly. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, you guys watch wrestling? Any one of you? If you,
So I used to watch WWE.
yeah, but
No,
it's like
sir.
all is scripted. Okay. But like as you guys are in India, you might be aware from this wrestler called as the Great Khali. Yeah.
Yes,
Anyone?
sir.
Anvi, you have heard of him?
No, sir.
No. Okay. See, basically, he is a very tall wrestler. Okay, na? He is a very tall wrestler. I think his height would be more than 7 feet, obviously, right?
Uh,
Also, if you guys watch, if you have watched like a basketball, you watch basketball was, you might be aware of Shaq O'Neal.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So like these are very tall people, right? No? So obviously they are the reason behind them being very tall is because in their body excessive amount of growth hormone is secreted, right now. Also, if you watch like some of other sports like strongman classics, hmm? Strongman classes, there you would be aware about some people like Eddie Hall, and then some other people are also there. Getting it? Anyways, the main thing is that when excessive amount of growth hormone is secreted, it leads to gigantism. But if so less uh, growth hormone is secreted, then it leads to dwarfism.
So there's a basketball player. He's 7'8".
7 foot 8. Okay, imagine standing next to that person, huh? Okay,
He like takes the ball. The hoop is like 10 foot. He can just raise his hand and just put it there.
that should be considered illegal. Uh, they should have a separate court for him to play. Hmm? Okay. So pituitary glands we have learned, right? One more important thing about the pituitary gland is that it actually helps in initiating the reproductive function. Okay, now what it does, it actually helps in initiating the reproductive function. Like it helps in the development of the reproductive organs, namely the testis and the ovary. So see what happens. The hormones from the pituitary, like different type of hormones are secreted by the pituitary gland. It's not only the growth hormone. Other hormones are also secreted. So hormones from the pituitary gland will stimulate testes and ovaries to release testosterone. Like testis releases testosterone in male, and ovaries will be releasing estrogen in females. Right. So pituitary gland is present in the brain. Right. It is secreting some hormones that reaches the testis and ovary and stimulates them. Let me show you over here. See, in our brain we have the master gland, that is pituitary gland. Now the pituitary gland is sending the hormones. Sending the hormones to what? To the testis and ovary. So they send hormones. Getting it, Hanvi? to testis and ovary. Now, in return, as the testis and ovaries will get stimulated, so they will release the hormones into the bloodstream. What hormones? The testis would be releasing the testosterone, and the ovary would be releasing estrogen, right?
Yes, sir.
Estrogen. And where do these go? Estrogen and testosterone, they go into the blood, no? Right or no? They go into the blood, and the blood will carry them to the target sites, right? The blood would be now carrying those hormones to the target sites. And once they have reached their target sites, so there we can observe the changes. So thereby we should know about the function of testosterone and estrogen, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
testosterone basically is important for the males particularly, like it's responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics. If you guys remember this thing moments ago, we had actually concluded the discussion of secondary sexual characteristics. All the secondary sexual characteristics that we were learning about in the boys, particularly growth of the facial hairs, right? Increase in the muscle mass, growth of the body hair, a deeper voice. All of these changes were actually brought by testosterone. All of these are happening because of testosterone. Getting it what I'm trying to say? Right? So there are different target sites of the testosterone hormone. Via the blood, it is carried to different parts of the body, right? Like it's carried to the muscles, to the hairs, to the.
నన్ను ఈ కాల్ వస్తుంది
Yeah.
కింద ఇన్ఫెక్షన్ చెక్ చెక్
You're saying something, Hanvi?
నో సార్
Okay. And the estrogen will also be carried by the blood to different target sites, different specific areas in the body, where it will help in bringing different changes. Okay, na? That's the thing. All right. Now talking about the reproductive phase in the humans. Okay, na? In the reproductive phase in the humans, like as I have told you guys, like only at a certain age in the life of the animals and the humans, they become capable of reproduction, right? So at what age they become capable of reproduction, and at what age they are incapable of reproduction, or is it that they are capable of reproduction till their lifetime? So let us discuss about that. Okay. Adolescents become capable of reproduction at puberty when the testes and ovaries begin to produce gametes, respectively sperms and eggs. What I told you that the adolescents, respectively the males and the females, they become reproductively mature at puberty when the testis and ovary. In the males, the testis starts releasing the 6 cells called as gametes. And that is basically sperm over here. And in the females, ovary starts to releases the egg cells. They are also basically gamete cells called as the ovum. Or simply we also call this as egg cells. So adolescents, they became capable of reproduction at puberty when the testis in the male and the ovaries in the female begin to produce sperm and the egg cells. Adults, boys would be growing and becoming men, and adolescent girls would be growing and becoming women. In men, the capacity to produce male gametes or sperms usually lasts throughout the life. Okay, now throughout the life, like once they have attained puberty, after puberty, the moment they are like till their lifetime, they are reproductively capable. Getting it? But in the females, right? In the females, the capacity to produce the female gametes, basically the egg or the ovum, last only up to age of 45 to 50 years of age. So due to this, the reproductive phase of the woman is actually shorter than that of the men. But I say that the reproductive phase of the woman is shorter than the male. Okay, so in females, what happens? The reproductive phase of life begins at puberty. That is around the age of 10 to 12 years of age, and generally last till the age of approximately 45 to 50 years of age. But in the male, what did I told you guys in the males? Yeah, tell me. Did I told you that they are reproductively active? They can be reproductively active till their lifetime, right? The reproductive phase of life in men or the males lasts much longer than in women, right? They are usually it usually lasts throughout lifetime until they don't suffer from any medical problems. All right. So that is the thing. Later on in the upcoming class, we will be mainly learning about the reproductive phase in the females. By the age of 10 to 12 years, the menstruation starts in them, right? And that's a sign. The first menstruation is the sign that the girl child has now become reproductively mature. Okay, no? Then by the age of 12 from between the age of 12 to 15 years, menstruation happens in them. Okay, and by the age of like 48, 49, 50, menstruation stops in them, right now. So after menstruation, they are no longer capable of reproduction, okay, of bearing babies. We'll be learning about that in the next class, and there will be have some important terminologies to learn about. That will be the menstruation, right, the monthly cycle, and after that we'll be learning about how do we determine the gender of the baby, whether it's the male or the female child that has to be born, how it is determined. From today's discussion, if you guys happen to have any questions, please let me know. Yes, please let me know. Yes, any questions?
So,
No. Okay, then we'll be continuing from the next class. All right.